Hello SuperCoaches, the team lists are in, the second major bye round is out of the way and Tommy Sangster isn't with us this week, but good news, Rob Sutherland is. Mate, how's your team going and what did you score on the weekend?
I had a bloody belter, mate. I scored 1,150, the 820th best score of the round, and that bumped me up about 5,000 places.
So you're in about 60,000 overall now after that?
That's unkind. 10,000, I believe.
10,000?
10,500 if we're not amongst friends. Yeah, how about yourself?
I didn't do any of the trades that I said I was going to make on Thursday or Wednesday. I ended up bringing in Tom Trbojevic and I captained him. I also brought in Daly Cherry Evans and Jermaine Asako. So it could have gone better. I scored about 920, so I only went down about 1,000 spots, which I thought I'd go down more. But yeah, it was all right, not too good. You want to be making moves in this bye period, and I didn't at all. But let's go to the team list. What is your major takeaway of the team list?
Look, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about Jono. Jono, who I ran into at 9 degrees Waterloo. Shout out. It's always nice when someone comes up and asks for a selfie, as opposed to just pointing out all the crap takes that I have given over the course of a season. I usually get more of the latter, and thanks, Jono.
Shout out to Jono. So my major takeaway is probably, it's a tricky one because Keaon Koloamatangi has been named in the extended bench. Now, we all thought he was going to be out 3 to 5 weeks with that eye socket fracture, but Wayne's playing a bit of a silly buggers here. Or, as you said in the green room before, maybe they just don't have enough players to actually name. So what do you think about that?
Well, we'll find out tomorrow or Thursday. I make your trades, but Gary, hit reverse button. Yeah.
Yep. SuperCoach Plus has a trial for $29.95, so your trials run out. So make sure you get everything in there. You get the break evens, you get the price rises. If you're serious about SuperCoach, you need SuperCoach Plus, and code is $59 for the year. So you get all your early mail, all the major stories from all our journos around the country. So all that great stuff for $59 for the year. On to the Tigers versus the Raiders, Friday 8 PM at Campbelltown Stadium. All eyes will be on the halves, and we thought we might see Latu Fainu named at the halves, but Jahrome has been named to back up with Heath Mason in at 5'8". What's your thoughts there?
Look, I don't know. I mean, I understand why Jahrome wants to do this. You know, he wants to show that he's the leader of the club and he wants to come back. But that's a very short turnaround. They finish Wednesday night late, so get on a plane Thursday morning, maybe get home by Thursday late. It's not a lot of turnaround, but I'd say it's quite conceivable that he backs up. As far as what does it mean for the Tigers halves, I still think Fainu's the guy they're going to go to, but I assume they want to get more match fitness into it.
At the Raiders, Jett Stewart gets the call-up, a potential cheapie for the future with Savelio Tamale out long-term with that fracture.
Yeah, nepotism for the win. You've got to love it, don't you? We're not allowed to say that about Flanagan, but maybe I can say it about Sticky. Look, Jett Stewart, what I've seen of him, which is not a lot but a bit, rangy, fast, but his New South Wales Cup numbers aren't great for SuperCoach. So he's been playing a little bit of wing, a little bit of centre, but he's averaging less than 100 metres a game. He's missing a few tackles. He's only scored 4 tries in 10 or 11 games. I wouldn't be rushing in there.
Yeah. I like from what I saw from Jett Stewart at the trials when they played Cronulla. I had a firm eye on him that game, and I think he might have scored a try, but we've got a few weeks to see if he holds on to that spot and how he goes. So the Raiders also have a very nice draw upcoming. I think I went and looked at it earlier, and they might only play one top 8 team for the rest of the way, which is the Dolphins, really late in the piece.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I'd say is Mrs. Stewart must be very tall, because he certainly didn't get any of Ricky's nuggety nature.
Hudson Young also named, but you'd think he's unlikely to back up.
I don't know. It depends how many minutes they sort of drag out of him, right? He might just play a reduced role for the Raiders, but he's a popular buy this week, and I think it's a mistake. I would say about Hudson Young, a great pickup, but after Origin for mine.
Yep. Warriors and Panthers, Saturday 3 PM. Kurt Capewell not named, so you got Maloa Graham Taufa filling in for him there. Aaron Clark's among the most purchased, people going from Koloamatangi to him. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I mean, I got into Clark a few weeks ago. One of the few good moves I've made. The price is up there, right? It's about $670K, but I love the dual position. When you're like me and you burn your trades, you get to the last 3 or 4 weeks and you haven't got any. Those dual positions are just invaluable, just being able to move them around to fill holes. good base, sneaky attack. I actually think he's a chance to get 100 against a very weak Panthers team.
Minutes not a concern for you? He played 55 2 weeks ago, 49 the last game they played. You'd probably want it to be up over that 65 mark, wouldn't you, to be perching him at that price?
Yeah, but he gets a lot done with the time he's got. It seems to me he can be a bit of one of those guys that they say to him, look, you're going to play 55, and he just ups his motor. You're going to play 65, and he drags it back into a gear, He hasn't failed to deliver yet, even when they've played with the minutes, so I'm still pretty happy.
Yep, I'm certainly looking at him as a potential move from Koloamatangi, but at the Panthers, how good was it just to see Nathan Cleary just not play any silly buggers? He hasn't named any of his Origin players, and Penrith should run out 1-17.
And he told us that he would do that like 2 weeks ago. The only player who's up in the air, as far as I understand, is Lindsay Smith. So he's over in Perth, but he's not scheduled to play. But if he's called in to play, then he won't back up for Penrith. If he does, he'll hop on a plane straight away if he doesn't play.
The mighty Paul Alamotti back in the team as well.
Oh, you'd be excited about that. Have you still got him in your team?
No, I never ended up getting him in.
Of course, yeah.
I got in Leo Apawade,
Yeah.
so I can't wait for next week till he's back. But Dolphins, the Knights, the most player of interest here is Jack Bostock after scoring 176 on the weekend. He's got a negative 77 break even. So what are your thoughts about Jack Bostock? Are people chasing last week's points, or do you think he's a genuine buy?
One of my hard and fast rules of SuperCoach is never chase big points from a winger because they let you down so often. But in this instance, I can see the reason to break it. 2 reasons. One, BE minus 72. If he gets in the mid-50s, he's got a negative BE again next week. So that's the goal, right? The left edge of the fins is absolutely on fire. I know the Knights have some cattle back, but they can leak some points out wide. You could see Bostock scoring a try again this week. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're probably getting 160k off him. Look, I'm not doing it, but if I had extra trades, I probably would.
Yeah, I don't like it just because I think the last week, the week to go with him would have been last week, but I just couldn't bring myself into buying him. But I could buy Herbie Farnworth, who's the fourth most popular buy of the week after putting out 150, and a few non-owners would have not been very happy with Cody Nikorima when he delivered him that.
Wasn't that hilarious?
Yeah.
And what does that say? That says, well, if they're up, then they're going to go looking for Herbie because they're aware of the streak and they want it to keep going. Obviously, it's going to stop at some point. The price is getting nuts, but he's one of those guys, because of this big 150, that if you don't get him this week, you're just not going to get him for 3 or 4 weeks. You might as well not watch Dolphins games because it'll infuriate you the way he can just jag his way across the field, palm, offload. That's a 10, 12 point run.
Yeah, I'm thinking of getting him because if I sell Koloamatangi, I've got about 1.2 million in free cap space. So I've got a lot of money to move around. So he's definitely going to come in calculations. But
well, there's no team hotter than the Dolphins at the moment.
I know, what was it, 50 points the last 2 weeks, and then what was it, 40 something the week before?
Yeah, about 150. If you average about 150 over 3 weeks,
Yep.
It's phenomenal.
Yep. At the Knights, Kalen Ponga has been named, but obviously has to get through Origin, and he's got a slight ankle concern. Big one for me was Fletcher Hunt, not named in the side after Bradman Best came back. He was a popular buy last week, and he's been looking really good the last 2 weeks. He played fullback, I believe, on the weekend when Fletcher Sharp was out.
Yep.
Fletcher Sharp also has been named, so Dominic Young on the wing, does he entice you as a purchase at all, given he might be there for the rest of the season?
Well, no. I mean, if I was going to buy Dom Young, it was when he was looking at starting at the Roosters. I want to see how it all sort of settles down and washes out at the Knights, and that attack is just unexciting is perhaps the nicest word I could come up with. So I don't really want to buy into any other players. I've got Lucas and I've got Sharp because he can score points, in lots of ways. I wouldn't be buying more.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. It's good to see him back in, and it was funny that he played the Knights literally last week and didn't score a try, but yeah, Rabbitohs versus Storm, Saturday 7:30. As we said earlier, Keaon Koloamatangi, he's one of the most sold players this round, but has been named in the extended bench. Jai Gray is facing up to 6 weeks on the sidelines, and someone we were talking about just before, Tallis Duncan with a negative break-even after knocking out 2 big scores over the last 2 weeks. What are your thoughts about him, and are you going to bring him in?
I'm not. I don't have Haumole, and I do have Keaon. I probably will sell Keaon, unless he's makes this miraculous recovery, and I'm going to get Eli Katoa. Right? I already had Aaron Clark, so those are the two premiums. The not quite premium second rows that I think are well worth a look are Brighton Nickera and Tallis Duncan. So Duncan's getting through 55 odd in base, showed some good attack last week. Seems to be locked in, starting on that left edge and then moving into 13 when Hubner goes. If Koloamatangi is out as we expect, then that's more work that needs to be done in the middle, and Duncan is never shy of going and chasing work. Look, I don't love him as a keeper, but I can see why some people are getting him as a sneaky pod.
Yeah, I like Tallis Duncan. I've had him in my draft side all year, and he's never really got those minutes over the last few years, but he's really starting to get them, and he's starting to thrive. So he's a bit less than 500k, so he's nice price there, but there's a few options. So at the Storm, as you said, Eli Katoa, he's the most popular player this week, but the Storm have no buys for the rest of the year. They're all done. So guys like Jahrome Hughes, Ryan Papenhuyzen, Eli Katoa, they're all popular purchases. Are you looking at any other of those guys?
Well, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? When you buy him, you're buying him for 12 weeks. So I've had Hughes and sold him, and I've got Hines and Cleary. The way I'm going is I'm just going to hold those two and have no one in round 18, and then in between them, one over the other, then one of them will be playing 16, 17, 18, 19, but not on 18, so 16, 17, 19. I can see why people are getting Hughes, and I've got no problem with it. The price is great, but I prefer a goal kicker, ultimately, in the end. I think Katoa is a great get at his price.
Katoa does look good, doesn't he? But it didn't matter Hughes last year. He was probably the best halfback, Supercoach-wise, for the year, and never goal kicks.
Agreed. He carried me home last year. He got a 180 that I captained in the second or third. I think it could have been against Cronulla, was it?
Yeah, it was. Actually.
Yeah, it was. So you like how I sort of acted like I wasn't so sure?
You definitely knew that was against Cronulla.
Yeah, I did. Look, he carried me last year, and that was great. But, history suggests that goal kickers are the better. And that's why. I mean, the Cleary's at 1, Hines is at 4, Adam Reynolds is at 2, and I got a funny feeling it's either Fogarty or Katoa at 3, 4. So, and then it's Hughes. Because he has these big games, 130s, and then he has 35s. Yeah.
Yep. The rest of the Storm contingent that are playing Origin also been named to back up. Harry Grant, Cameron Munster. So happy days for anyone who has those, if they do play.
If they do. Yeah.
Speaking of the Sharks, they play the Broncos Sunday, 2 p.m. Nicho Hynes is a popular sell. Only 2 scores over 90 this year. He's playing good footy, but the Supercoach scores just aren't coming.
Well, I bought him 2 weeks ago, so you can thank me for killing him. That said, he was like a centimetre away from a try assist, line break assist. I think it was Nickera that he put through and would just finished like a centimetre or 2 short of the line. Now, if he got that, he scores 80 and people would go, Nico's back. The big games aren't coming. The runs are coming, which is great. I still have him as a hold, but if someone wants to sell one of Cleary, Hines, Drinkwater to get Hughes, it's probably Hines.
Yeah, he's running a lot more direct this year. He's not running, across the field and where he'd get those, lazy tackle busts.
And an offload as well.
Yeah, so he's not getting the points there.
Yeah.
But he's just running straight and just getting tackled. So you've also got Mawene Hiroti. He was a little pod buyer last week, filling in for Kale Iro. He's done his calf, so Talakai comes in, bottom dollar. He's got dual centre wing, second row.
Yeah.
The job security's there.
Yeah, look, and he's got bloody soft hands. He's got great hands. He will put someone, he'll put his winger through these beautiful little passes. My issue is that, like Stone Street's, getting close and potentially, they've shown that they can move Mulatalo into centre, which I don't love for the team, but they have done it before. And in that case, then you're getting, with Talakai, you're getting a bit of an AE nightmare issue. I don't want to buy into that, but I can see why people are taking a chance.
His dynamic off the bench as a middle forward is just so important for Cronulla, and as a Mulatalo owner, I'm very happy to see him there, just because, as you said, those silky hands. I think one year, before Iro got into the side, he might have been leading the NRL in tries.
He was, yeah.
Just because of all the silky hands he
and
has.
Offloads. But you're right, that is what, like, Cronulla's kind of problem is off the bench they lack punch, right? So that's what Talakai was giving, and I think they would miss that if they give it up full time.
Yep, we've also got just a little mention to Blake Brayley in my team, scoring 100 on the weekend. Could have easily been 130 if he got that try.
Mm-hmm.
That was disallowed, so...
That was easily the best game of his season.
Suddenly
he started running, but we were talking about this. Is that Blake Brayley has rediscovered his running game, or is that the Dragons' middles really, really sucked? And he just took advantage of it.
He always runs. He never runs at the wrong time. He won't ever force a run, so if he was running, there's a good chance that the opportunity was just there all game. So at the Broncos, Payne Haas and Pat Carrigan both been named. Ben Hunt was expected to return, but he's now faced a setback and isn't playing. And the big one is Josiah Karapani retains his spot on the wing as a potential cheapie, but Selwyn Cobbo's lurking there in the extended bench.
Yeah, Karapani's really popular. Cobbo, from everything I've heard, is definitely not playing this week. But it's also not a case of he's dropped. It's a case of he needs to go away and do work on himself, right? So I think people going on Karapani this week are making a mistake because you've got a week to look at him free. Take that time and see what the team looks like next week, and then let's talk.
Yep, I couldn't go near Karapani just because of how much of a footballer I rate Selwyn Cobbo as. Reece Walsh was there at 600,000. 83 in his first hit against the Titans. Any love for Reece?
None whatsoever. He'll break your heart. And my fullbacks are, Paps, Teddy, Drinkwater, locked, leave it, don't want to touch him.
Yep, set and forget. So Reece intrigues me, but I can't trade Turbo out after just getting him in. So I've got to stick solid. Roosters and the Cowboys. Sandon Smith's a popular sell. Teddy's a popular buy. Do you have Sandon Smith still? Did you sell him last week?
I was going to, and I was going to buy Brayley from the Knights. And then when the news came that Sammy Walker had the setback, I was like, well, I'll keep Sandon because it doesn't make any sense to get rid of him. Didn't go that well, but did okay. And as a result, I ended up getting Nickera. So, worked out for me. But, I can see why people are selling, but Sandon Smith does that. He has those couple of quiet games and he has a big game. So, I think he'll reward those that hold. I want to give a shout out to Angus Crichton at the Roosters, who I think post-Origin is going to be the second row smoky. He hasn't had a monster game yet this year. He's putting a few 70s together. Origin's always good for him. He'll come back just in time for Sam Walker to be coming back and ignite that offence. I think Angus is a smoky second row to finish. Yeah,
I had Angus in probably the 8 weeks leading up to Origin, and he didn't have that big score like he's had the last few years, but each week he was just punching out consistent 70s. So there's not that many options.
And he's not that expensive. He's only 500 and something.
And he was the elite of the elite last year. Yeah. So after Origin, he, as you said, he might be the best option. At the Cowboys, most of their Origin contingent have been named. I think Jahrome, Nene, Tom Dearden and the like, which is good for Scott Drinkwater.
It's essential. I mean, you saw what happens to Drinkwater when he's got, it's no shock, but when he hasn't got a pack to work behind, he really struggled, right? Just no front foot. I think they'll be much better. Look, I love the Roosters, but wouldn't describe them as defensively stout this year. I think Drinkwater bounces back this week.
Yeah, I hope he does. And to get the score he did with that score that they put up, I thought it was pretty impressive. At the Eels on Sunday, they play against the Titans. Josh Papali'i, he's been named at 5'8", with Dylan Brown suspended for one game, but he could remain in the side if he plays well with Mitch Moses out with an injury. Yeah,
I suppose he could. I still think if you've got Dylan Brown coming back, then Dean Hawkins is a much better fit. You don't want two out-and-out running 5'8s. And I say this as a Dylan Brown owner who's been pretty disappointed the last couple of weeks, but 5'8's a tough spot, and he's I think he'd gone over 60 in 4 of the 6 games in the last 6 games. So I'll hold for now, but not with any confidence. I wouldn't be buying into Joe Ash.
If he really impresses with a big game, is there a world where Dylan Brown will go, sorry mate, you're going to Newcastle next year, Papali'i is our future, we want to build for next year around him? Do you think there's a world where that happens and he gets in the side?
I would be shocked, but I suppose it's possible.
Because they're not going to make the 8.
No, they're not going to make the 8. But you still play your best team on the whole, don't you? And Dylan Brown's in their best team.
Yep. At the Titans, Beau Fermor is still a popular buy, just continues to whack out good scores, doesn't play Origin anymore, so which is a bit stiff. Poor old Beau didn't do
He didn't do it. It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault, yeah, exactly.
The thing is, people are going to buy in and, Cotter will do his calf and then suddenly they'll be like, oh, we need a starting second rower again, and Bo gets called back. I also think, like, while his base of 60, 62, whatever it was last week was impressive, I don't have him in my top 5 or 6 second rows. I don't have him in anywhere near my 5 or 6 centre wings. So I don't understand buying him at this point of the season when my team is stacked. You're buying an insurance piece, really, and I don't like that.
I agree, but I also think you're never going to be disappointed with Bo Fermor. He's always going to knock out that, 60 to 70, and every week or two he might jag a try, and we've seen he can jag 2 tries. So he does have that upside, but it's just probably not as some of these other guys that we can get.
He does. I just fear that he's that kind of guy that you play on the good matchups, so you don't on the bad, and he scores against the Storm and he doesn't against the Eels.
Tino Fa'asuamaleaui has been named on the bench, but he's battling an ongoing sternum injury and probably doesn't back up, you wouldn't think.
I don't know. Tino and Mo both on the bench. I actually think Tino does back up. It clearly means so much to him to lead that team. That even if he just backs up and plays 40 off the bench, I could see it.
Would you play him?
No, I won't play him.
Yeah.
He'll be a non-player for me. But I'm not selling him either because I just love his upside.
Yep, I couldn't sell him, but I don't think I'll be playing him either. David Fafita also named at 18th man, so what a bit of a fiasco that is. Ankle surgery, and then there was, just a nightmare.
He is way too good a player not to be playing.
Yeah. Especially the way the Titans are going, they need him. They need him playing his best, and having him just sit there isn't going to do anything for his confidence at all. So.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep, so that's it for the games. On the buys, we got the Seagulls, Haumole, Olakau'atu. Bit of a bad thing that happened with the shoulder injury. You don't have him?
I don't have him. Yeah.
He's a sell.
He's a sell.
Yep. Tom Trbojevic fourth most popular sell. I can see why. There's reports that he might play centre when he comes back with Leha Hopewade. You don't have him, but what would you do if you were in my shoes and just bought him? You've got to stick solid.
I think you've got to stick solid. The draw is pretty enticing after this, after the bye, but he's very much getting onto my never again list, which I think he's been on before, and I've bought him twice this year. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I keep getting sucked in. Yeah.
At the Bulldogs, Jacob Carraz just looks awesome.
He does have a touch of the Doogs about him, though, doesn't he? It's you're a bit terrified every time he goes down. That's like he went down. It looked like he was gone with a neck injury, and then he comes, he bounces back up, and he's back to busting tackles and chucking offloads. There's a surprising number of people buying him this week, which I think is a mistake. Never buy on the buy. But he and Billy Kickow have very much impressed on different sides.
Have you got Kickow? You've been talking him up.
I do. Yeah. And that was his best game. Not just because he got 100, but he got in the middle and did a lot of work. So yeah.
What do you think of Lockie Galvin?
Actually, I thought he was pretty good.
Do you think he stays there?
No, because he played on the left.
Yeah, he did.
And Matt Burton's going to come back to the left. So I would assume that was the sign that Galvin was floating and will go back to the bench. I would have thought he had to go on the right.
Yeah, me too.
To cement that spot.
And Sexton he looks so good there.
Sexton looked great.
Yeah. If I was a team needing a halfback, I'd be going after him.
Yes.
And at the Dragons, poor old Dragons, Clint Gutherson, 6th most sold. People still have him in their team.
Well, I think he's still in the top 8 or 10 overall averages. His 3-round, 5-round average is like 40 or 50, but because he had such a great start to the season, he's holding on. But you got to sell and take the value. That team is it's falling apart.
Anything you want to get off your chest before we finish up here?
No, not other than to say, unfortunately, I won't be on the Thursday show, so there won't be any ranting and raving from me. I'll be high on a sort of opiate. Happy place after some surgery, but I'll be back next week.
Tom will be back as well. I think Max Bryden's coming on the show on Thursday, so we'll see you then. Have fun at Origin and good luck.